were in 16 millimeter black and white film and aluminum film cans, and they just kicked around on our family. Sometimes my sister had it, and at one time my mother had it, and then pretty soon I had it. It just sat on the shelf for the last 33 years, and then the Snoops who snooped in my archive dug it out, and I didn't know that they'd already done something with it, and I found out that they showed me a little clip and said, oh, I remember those. That's when I was a little, I had that on my tricycle. So that whole era was covered by my father with a little camera. I still have the camera.
It's so neat to see those steps too outside the house that you grew up in. They look exactly the same. Yeah.
The house was never changed. It just took all the drywall off and put good drywall on.
Yes. All right. We'll take another question. Sure. Well, I don't know if we can get a mic up there, but you can talk real loud. Whoever yelled that up there. I can't see with the lights, but yes, you.
Hold on. Okay. You got it, go.
All of the members are so favorite, it's hard to pick just one. But the fact that I would watch him when something didn't work, and it was somebody's idea that didn't work, we lost the time and we lost the money. Normally you stop breathing because some managers will fire you if you ever do it again. Well, just take a look at the situation and say, well, we sure found out what doesn't work, so why don't we get going? Let's see if we can get this thing to work. The person whose idea that cost the time and the money, they resumed breathing and they saw that they were not going to get fired. Think of that. Everybody sees this situation. Well understood, don't ever rebuke somebody and fire somebody and blame it for something we all worked on that it didn't work. We're going to get it to work. Because if you chop a creative person, that person is never going to give you an idea that comes up any higher than average. We all understood that no matter what your personality and the other things in your life, and if something didn't work once in a while, it's because, well, you came up with a big idea that might work. That was so important. I watched him treat everybody just like that, and every time I get a chance to pass that on to people, that is the most important thing. So that was, what a memory was that technique of honoring people that are creative and never chopping them.
I really love that you say that because in an industry, in the entertainment industry as a whole, I think it's really easy for some people to be really negative. And I think for any time you're in a position where you've got a younger person working for you, I think it behooves us to pass on the positivity and lift people up rather than tear them down, because they're just going to pass on what you give to them, right? Yeah. All right. Great. Who else? Right here. Yes. Apologize. It's a little hard to see with the lights. Oh.
Tanya!
We love Tanya.
Woo!
Tanya, hold on just a second.
Tanya, we're going to get you a microphone. One moment.
I'm Tanya Norris, and I worked with Bob back at WED in the 1960s. But Bob, what's your favorite recollection of that time working at WED? When I started, there were only 39 employees, and then MAPO happened. Tell us about what you thought when you started there.
I started there in October of 1954, but I can assure you between that time and when we opened the park the following July, the Disney lot, the whole back lot was a western town, and I took my brown bag out as much as possible for my lunch hour, and I went out and I watched shoot 'em up cowboys with horses and poop and dust and all kinds of stuff. It was the most exciting place. What was really weird, those people were looking at us, the Disneyland designers, the so-called Imagineers, wondering what kind of studio is this? They're trying to build cars, they're trying to make railroad stuff. It's a movie studio, for corn's sakes. So it had two aspects that were counter-opposed and each side was so curious about the other. It was a magical place.
Wow. Wow. For those of you who don't know, Tanya is an amazing designer, and she came on in the 1960s and actually did a lot of the designs for New Orleans Square and the Haunted Mansion. And worked she was lucky enough to, at a very young age, to actually go on a research trip with Walt and Lillian and many other people to research New Orleans Square while it was under development. So Tanya's an incredible wed Imagineer, so you should look her up. Who else? Anyone? Someone back there.
I'll meet you halfway.
Sounds good.
I feel like Phil Donahue.
We need the Jeopardy music playing for all this.
So, some Disney fans may know a little tiny blog called Disney Food Blog, and I'm a reporter for them, and we want to know what your favorite food at Disneyland is.
Favorite food at Disneyland?
I eat at Minnie's Cafe across the street.
It's a bowl of soup. Perhaps you've seen this in there. Anyone else up in the balcony? And you'll just have to kind of yell out because I really can't see it. Over there, okay. Over there.
So, Bob, can you tell us why there's a basketball hoop on top of that one?
Why? Yes.
I'd have to repeat what everybody else speculated, but the best knowledge that I know of, because I had a job a long time ago to install some equipment up in the top, and that area, as the building expands, in a way, or shrinks going up, there's a spot where there's a major floor where the elevators change and a bunch of other stuff. It's just big enough for a half court, and it was always used as a break room, sort of. So I think some witty soul decided, oh, bring in a hoop and nail it up on a part of the building there. And there was just enough room to half court it. And then a few years ago, for the Imagineering story that Leslie Iwerks was shooting, I was asked to go up there and do a little fill-in stuff. I walked up there by myself, finishing the shot, and there was 3 balls on the floor. And I saw the hoop. And I have never gotten a hoop in my life, and I shoot underhanded. You know, old people do that. Ball went up and went that way, the next one went up and went that way, the next one went up and went right straight through without touching the darn thing, and I screamed and yelled, that's the first hoop in my whole life. That's the part I remember best.
It's such a wonderful moment. If you haven't seen Leslie Iwerks' documentary, it's absolutely wonderful. You should check it out immediately. Who else? We got someone over the gentleman right there. You, sir. Yes, you. Yes, right there. Yes.
I work as a designer for an aerospace company as well, but I don't have an engineering license. Do you have any advice for someone who is finding themselves in a career rut, or for a generation of people who are slowly getting into a career rut?
That's an extremely good question from the standpoint. Hopefully you were curious a long time ago, but probably it's a little harder to do nowadays. It's probably also a little harder to do to get the education that some companies say that you must have, because that's going to cost you a lot of money. The best thing that I offer people that they do follow up with is how much self-teaching can you do, which means you force your own curiosity. We didn't have a computer, we didn't have internet, we didn't have anything, but we still found the answers that we're going to need. It's much easier today, so what you need to do is get used to the fact that get used to searching every day for something, and every hour that you stop texting with this infernal device, put it into something that's putting something in your brain that you can use.
Yes, young lady with the mouse ears.
First of all, I had to at that meeting today, so I feel like a part of some club. But what made you decide to do like the
buggy was designed 2 years after the voyage through inner space. All right? I had an idea of how we could make a continuous track of vehicles on a track, but have the body mounted on it so the body can rotate and dip up and down. This would allow the art directors to have people turn from one scene to another rather than always looking at the back of the car in front of you. Just doing it that simple. The next thing was, because the voyage to inner space was a kind of a very almost.
It was surreal, right?
Well, the part was as cozy. The narration was kind of going to be like, oh, we're going to go down into the nucleus and stuff. I wanted to put a speaker on behind the people in each corner, which meant I made a body shell that kind of encapsulated you in kind of a little safe little place. And so to answer your dune buggy one, the dune buggy simply copied this identical vehicle from the voyage to inner space, but we painted it flat black.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I seem to recall you telling me that when you were thinking about this, you were up in John Hench's office and there was an apple on his desk and you started twisting it is that correct? Am I
Oh yeah, okay.
right?
What he's talking about is the genesis of the idea was we're always looking at new ways to come up with reliable attractions that will have a very high theoretical hourly throughput. And I was looking for a way to do that, but at the same time, how do we make the viewpoints and shows better? So the idea that I just described, John Hench had this candied apple on a little stand. That was a common thing a long time ago, and I picked it up and I twirled it, and I said, like this. The little apple would turn, and I said, we're moving people. I said, oh, it's a mover, and then I said, oh, there's another word. Omni means all the way around. When you're a pilot, there's an omni range, the radio frequencies to guide you. They just happened to mention the word omni and mover, and then it got stuck, omni mover, and that was a temporary holding thing, and it's been held ever since.
It's an incredible innovation because it's the first ride vehicle where art directors and designers can point the guest at the scene that you want so you don't have to build your show set and your scene's 360 degrees. It's kind of an amazing invention and they're still using it today.
Well, it's an extremely simple, very simple principle because several things are the advantage. As you leave one scene, you can suddenly flip around and look at the other scene, depending on where you're making right or left turn.
Right.
That takes seconds of wasted space, what we call a segue from this scene to that scene. You take that segue space out and add more seconds to every one of those scenes. So that means it's a much more efficient storytelling type of way to do that. But it's all a matter of a machine that is continuously running, all connected. You don't need an anti-collision system, and you don't do a thing like that. And in the case of those early ones, like the Haunted Mansion, there's no electronics in the control like later attractions. It's full mechanically cogs and cams and it bangs and it does all this weird stuff. People think, oh, this is weird. No, it's just bad design.
That's so great. Okay, well, I think we're about out of time, folks. But thank you so much for your time, Bob.